We are going to get started here, and today we are going to be talking about what changes can we see in the Irides. Hello, Tyrone from Dallas. Good to have you joining us on Facebook. So good to have everybody with us today. As we talk about changes, we are going to maybe dispel some myths that you've heard or seen, or maybe were even taught at some point in time. I'm going to encourage you as well to please interact with me. Comments and questions, regardless of what app you're joining me on, always appreciated. If you've got a question and it's something that is appropriate for where we're at, I will answer it right away. If it's not appropriate for where we're at, but something I can deal with later on towards the end of the presentation, I absolutely will. So welcome. My name is Judith Cobb. We are going to have some fun today talking about iridology, and we're going to look at the changes that we can see in the eyes. And we're only going to be together for maybe 45 minutes at the outset, at the most. And so you don't need to be totally committed to this for the next 2 hours or anything like that. Hello, Maria. It's Maria Lowen. It's good to see you with us on the live webinar. We are a small group. We are always a small group. This is a very niche category that we are in. So please do drop comments, give me waves, let me know when something's resonating. And I'm going to be asking for interaction as well. You'll find that the more you play with me in my sandbox, the more you're going to get out of me today. So if your idea is to optimize the next 45 minutes, then interact, right? Don't be multitasking because you're not going to interact well then. This information is meant for your education only. It is not meant to diagnose or prescribe. You are responsible for the results you get, good or bad, from using this information. And again, I do love when you ask questions and when you make comments. So please, let's get to know each other a little bit here. And we've got Aquila joining us. Thank you so much for being with us on Instagram, Aquila. Good to see you. I just want to start with this. This is something that one of my students just sent me. She's in the current course. This is from Selena. She said, hello, Judith. I just wanted to take a moment of your time and put out a huge thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing this. I've been learning so much in the first few weeks of class, and it's been a true blessing. As an educator in my field, I feel as though I've taken so many continued education courses, and I really appreciate your detailed course. I particularly enjoy being able to review the mini videos throughout my busy work week. I have always learned best by audio and really feel that it's the glue in your course. I'm super excited to see what's in store in the coming weeks. I'm so looking forward to being able to build this amazing process into my practice. I think it'll be well received by all my clients, young and old. I love that. And she's a massage therapist and a yoga instructor, and she's got a lot of skills in her tool belt. And she sent this to me just after the second lesson. And so pretty exciting stuff, All right, and just a heads up, I promise we're getting to eyes in just a moment here. The next course starts on October 12th. And if you are, and that is cut off, so I'll give you the whole URL here. If you are a health professional, and if what we talk about today resonates with you and you're thinking, yeah, I need to know more, and I think I want to get into this, please use this URL, tinyurl.com, dynamic-iridology-insight. There's actually a T on the end of this that somehow got cut off. Use that URL. Let's book a time to have a conversation and talk about where you're at, what your goals are with iridology, how would iridology fit into what you want to accomplish with your studies or with your business, and is this the right course for you? All right, this is truly an insight call. I will only offer you the opportunity to enroll in the program if I feel like it's a really good fit for you. And believe me, there are quite a few people who I've had calls with where I've suggested that it's not the best fit, that their business model would not incorporate this well, or that they didn't have the anatomy and physiology that they need to do this well. And so my goal here is not to sell everybody into the course, because it's really hard to teach people who aren't really ready for the course. And I don't want to work that hard. I want to have fun. And so, you know, if you're a health professional and you've got anatomy and physiology under your belt and you want to learn iridology, then this is the URL. Again, there's a T on the end of this, Insight. All right. Also, just a note that I only accept 10 students and there are just a few places left for the October 12th course. All right, let's look at some eyes. Those of you who are with me on Instagram, you're going to get an unstable picture because I'm going to hold my phone so that you can have a closer upper, that's probably not good grammar, picture and see what we're talking about. So let's start with this image. This is a man, and I'm going to show you several sets of photos, a few sets of photos from this fellow. He was in his mid-40s when he came to me. Now, these were taken a few years back with an 8 megapixel digital camera, back when 8 megapixels were hot stuff, right? So I don't know if you are old enough to remember that, or if you were into photography back then, to recognize that when we got into 8 megapixels, we thought we were cool cats. We had the world by the tail. We could see details that we'd never seen before. And so I was pretty impressed with these photos. Now, a year and a half later, I got a new camera. It was a 24 megapixel. Do you see the difference? Now we're going to look at these side by side. What do you think has changed here? What do you think has changed? So let's look at what he looks like initially and what he looks like 18 months later. Can you see any changes there? What changes would you say you see? You want to play with me in my sandbox? And this is a bit of a trick question. I'm kind of setting you up here, which might not be the nicest thing to do, but I promise I will be very kind as we do this. What do you see here? Peggy says the color of the photos are different. Yeah. That is a huge observation, Peggy. Huge observation. And Peggy, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And Peggy, again, is a graduate of the course, so she knows when I say that what I'm talking about. Peggy, why are we seeing color differences here? Why is the color of the photo so different? We'll give her just a minute to type that in. Anybody else have any guesses as to why the color is different? Yeah, the lighting and the camera. Both Peggy and Maria got in on that beautifully. Well done. The source of the lighting is different, which means this light source is a different color. This was an incandescent ring flash. This was an LED flash. And so that's huge. And Tyrone says hard to tell because the pictures are different resolution. Tyrone, you aced it too. Excellent. Yeah, the camera was different, a different resolution, 8 megapixels versus 24, right? So you're going to see that the 24 just looks so much clearer. And the camera itself, when you change cameras and change tech, it changes the output. And so I know that there are a lot of people that would look at this first image and they'd go, oh, it's kind of a duller color, you know, yada, yada. They would look at the newer image and they'd go, oh, it's brighter. He's done some cleansing, right? He's getting healthier, right? And the fact of the matter is, no, he didn't do any cleansing at all. He was just kind of staying the course, doing whatever good things he was doing. And the differences we see here are because of the camera. I cannot tell you how many arguments I've had with people who don't understand tech. They will show me before and after pictures that were clearly taken with different cameras, different lighting, probably different tech settings inside the camera. And they're saying that one of them is the before picture, one is the after picture, and look at the difference. Oh my goodness, I did this fruit diet and my eyes are so much clearer. And we got rid of all this pigment. And it's like, no, your tech changed. Send me before and after pictures done with the same camera on the same settings with the same lighting, and we'll have a conversation. All right. So what is it that gives me the right to actually be this bold and to be this opinionated. Well, the fact that I've been an iridologist for over 4 decades and I've studied under 8 different instructors, and I am an IPA level 3 certified iridology instructor, which there's only 5 of us in the world. This is a new level that IPA added about a year ago, and only 5 of us have achieved that certification level. And so I've been in the holistic health industry for many years, well, over 4 decades now. And I got in because I had health problems and the medical world was not solving them for me. Over those many years, I've written a lot of books that I've self-distributed, self-published and self-distributed: Pregnancy Naturally, The Herbal Birth Kit Handbook, Healthy Kids Naturally, The Essential Guide to Nature's Sunshine Products, Biokinesiology and Color Therapies, Level 1 and 2, and the Dynamic Iridology Textbook. And the Dynamic Iridology Textbook is only available to students who are enrolled in my program. I've also designed and taught herbal courses and biokinesiology and color therapy courses. I was a certified prenatal educator for a while. That was a ton of fun. And so I've designed and taught prenatal classes. And of course, now I am teaching an IPA approved iridology course. Peggy says, amazing teacher and person, Judith makes you enjoy education of health. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Peggy. I really appreciate that. All right. I'm also a nutrition professional. I'm affiliated with 2 professional organizations here in Canada, and I'm also a master herbalist and affiliated with the Alberta Herbalist Association as well. And again, just a quick reminder about the course coming up. Now let's get into some iridology. Sound okay? Yeah? All righty. So the better question isn't just what changes do we see, but it's what changes can we see in irides and what do those changes mean? Right? The idea of ask a better question to get a better answer. I love that. If I'm not getting the right answer or getting an answer that is meaningful to me, I keep asking why, what, how, and keep drilling down, what would happen if, right? So ask better questions, because we do know that irides change. They just don't change the way I was originally taught they would change 4 decades ago. I was taught that if you had blue eyes that had other colors in them, it meant you were toxic, and that you would have to, if you did a cleanse, did the right cleanse, your eyes would change color. I'm going to tell you that for the 10 years that I practiced that style of iridology, I was nothing but frustrated. Yes, my clients got results, but the results were not changing their iris color. The results were they felt better, right? They lost, they were able to get rid of the yeast overgrowth, or they were able to improve their digestive functions, or we got their bowel to function better so that they were having 2 bowel movements a day that were not backlogged. We fixed skin rashes, we built immune systems back up, but we never did see, there we go. We never did see their irides change color. I was actually just about ready to throw in the towel after about 10 years of waiting for eyes to change. And that's when I learned constitutional iridology. And when I learned the constitutional, oh, did it change my world? Totally changed my world. So let's look at this. Let's look at the ways we know irides do change. We know that pigment may be acquired or may become more dense. Pigment does not go away. It accumulates, it does not disperse. So, for example, these are the same person. Again, different cameras. So we're not looking at before and after here. What we're looking for is there anything that is remarkably different. So this again was a print film camera and an incandescent flash at the side. This is a 24 megapixel with the LED flash. What I want you to look at is, notice here in the more recent photo, this was done when he was in his mid-60s. The one taken when he was in his 40s doesn't have that patch of dark pigment running from about 30 minutes to about, well, it actually goes all the way up to about 40 minutes. It just fades out between 35 and 40. So what does that tell us? The color of the pigment tells us which organ genetically is wanting to be out of balance and wanting to cause problems. The placement of the pigment tells us which organs are going to suffer the most for it. Okay, so that pigment tells us that over the years, genetically, his body was programmed to have his liver become a troublemaker. And where this is sitting, we've got this into the adrenals and up through the prostate a little bit, and even this area where it's a little bit more faded, where it hasn't really fully developed. This is coming up into bladder and into pancreas. Okay, so we know where to watch for problems. And the idea here is we might want to band-aid each of those individual organs just to keep them calm. But the real crux here is that we need to be working with his liver. As we work with his liver, this is not going to go away. The irides do not give up what they've built. They've built this, they've acquired this, they've accumulated this, they're not going to give it away. So this is going to stay there as a constant reminder that this person needs to watch his manners, he needs to mind his manners, he needs to take care of that liver, and he needs to do it consistently, right? And so can you see that these are the same eye? Can you see we've got the marking here and here, and this didn't shift. These are both handheld setups, which means that, yeah, I might not be completely level on that horizon, so to speak. So this marking is what's sitting here. And we've got this little lacuna inside the collarette, which is right here, right? And so we're seeing that we've got all of the same markings. This is the same eye. The pupil size will account for the difference in the appearance of these lacunae. And as the pupil gets smaller, those lacunae will get narrower. So these are the same eye, absolutely, just taken about 20 years apart. Now it's interesting because over the years, this fellow has developed some really itchy skin. And we have tried many, many things to calm that down, and we've not had much luck. The best luck we've ever had with him is having him do sugar scrubs 2 to 3 times a week. And that seems to relieve the itch really, really well. Okay, these are also the same person. Again, this camera with the incandescent flash did not have as bright of a light as this one with the ring flash. These again were taken about 20 years apart. This fellow was a teenager, and this in his mid-30s. And so as we look to compare, are these really the same person? Let's look and see what we can find for similar markings to connect these. So we've got a small lacuna right here at about 26 minutes, and it is sitting right here. We've got this lacuna in the nutritive zone at about 48 minutes, 47, 48 minutes, and that is sitting right here. Right, we've got this fiber that does this little whoops, has a real bend in it right here. Notice we've got that right here. This is absolutely the same eye. But look, as a teenager, he has very little for freckles, if you will. By the time we have 20 years past, we have many little patches of brown freckling. This is a young man who in his late 20s and early 30s kind of went off the rails. He got into some pretty heavy alcohol. And his family history, at least his parents and his grandparents, there's a strong history of liver imbalance, of actual liver enzyme deficiencies. And so it's not a surprise that as he's getting older and as he's abused his body a little bit, he's back on track. He's got out of the heavy alcohol 8 or 9 years ago, which was brilliant on his part. And but his liver has said, and genetically it's saying, you know what, I need you to love me. And you need to, do whatever emotional and physical homework to help me feel like you really do care. And so when we look again, and Peggy is saying that these brown spots mean liver, they do. They again mean liver. And so we would look at the individual placements of these to see if any of these organ reaction fields were areas where he was currently having issues, or where there is maybe more of a family history of issues there. All right, well, we will never get rid of these. He could cleanse, he could go vegan, he could do, you know, he could do like 40-day juice fast, he could do all kinds of things. These pigments are not going away. They are genetic. Again, the color tells us which organ wants to be out of balance, and the placement tells us which organ is going to struggle because of it. Is this making sense for you? If this is making sense, give me a makes sense in the comments. Let me know that this is resonating for you. And Aquila is saying, yes, that's brilliant. And yeah, we're getting lots of yeses and makes sense. That is fantastic. Love it. Love it. We will sometimes see a lipemic diathesis appear, or it may become more opaque and or it may expand. So lipemic diathesis is this white ring coming around the edge. It starts out typically as just a sliver of white, and with time it can really grow. Now, this is actually not an iris sign, it's a corneal sign. This is accumulating in the cornea, and we rarely see it in people who are under the age of 20. We often see it in people over the age of 60. So if we've got pictures of this client from when they were younger, and we didn't see it, and then we start to see it when they're in their 60s, it can be natural aging of the cornea. If we see it under the age of 60, we absolutely want to have them go to their doctor and get some labs done. And if we see it even developing after the age of 60, we probably should ask them to get some labs from their doctor anyways. This suggests that there may be underlying imbalances again with the liver, and we need to understand what those imbalances are in order to prevent bigger issues coming down the pipes, right? And so again, we're not going to be able to dissolve this. The cornea is also very stingy. Once it has built this up, it's not going to let it dissolve. And that's okay, because when we understand, when we've got those labs back, when we understand the family history, when we know this person's diet and their lifestyle, when we know even about their emotional perspectives on things, helps us to understand why their body is setting this in, what is out of balance. And that gives us then the opportunity to coach them for diet, for supplements, for lifestyle, all the various things to prevent this from getting worse, or to prevent this from manifesting as a physical system. And so Peggy is saying sodium and cholesterol issues, not the sodium so much. Not the sodium. That's pretty old school to call it a sodium cholesterol ring. This is more to do with possibly cholesterol, but I want you to really think in terms of liver and liver imbalance, because the liver does more than just cholesterol, right? So we need to, again, have the history of the person before we assign a meaning to this. So Tyrone is saying detox issues. Tyrone, I don't understand what you mean by that. Would you expand on that so that we can make sure that we've got everything squared away? All right. And Julie, you're asking, are those crypts or lacuna in the nutritive zone? Was that for the last photo? For the lymphatic eye, or are you asking that for this, for the previous eyes? Yes. Okay. So let's just pop back there. So as we're looking at this, it's kind of hard to tell with these pictures are quite small. And the question again was crypts or lacunae. Crypts and lacunae are actually, crypts are simply a more refined version of lacunae, right? Lacunae tend to be larger, crypts are smaller. That is the big definition difference. They both essentially mean very similar things when we look for, with the exception that crypts are always dark, and so they're a little more ominous, right? Hopefully that helps. All right. So, and Chevy Noble is saying the liver filter is overloaded. And again, we can't necessarily assign that from what we see in the eyes. because when we see this lipemic diathesis in an iris, it's telling us what's going on, or it may be what has already happened. You know, maybe this person discovered, maybe this person's in their 60s, maybe they've had this ring this thick for 10 years. And they figured out 10 years ago, as they looked in the mirror and went, oh my goodness, what's that in my eyes? That they needed to do something. And so maybe they've cleaned up their diet. Maybe they've cleaned up their lifestyle. Maybe they've done all the liver support they need to do. They've done all the emotional cleansing they need to do. And so this, again, is not going to go away, but they've done the right things and their liver is now completely on track. So we always need to have that conversation. Tyrone is saying the liver is responsible for detox, so detox issue will be manifested when the liver is dysfunction. Yes, it will be. Again, you need context of time, right? Because you can't tell by looking at the eye exactly what's going on right now without having that conversation with the client to understand where they're at right now. So Chevy asks, how do you know if something to address or not? You have the conversation. You have the conversation. So this is a client that I would be wanting them to bring me in a very recent lipid panel, right? And I would be looking for any other indicators of this. You know, I would want a hemoglobin A1C. I would probably want a GGT and some of the liver enzyme tests as well. And when we got those back, it would help me to understand if this is an actual current physiology that's happening now, or if this has been resolved, if this person got on track and now they're being good. So this is just a reminder that they need to be good. Does that help, Chevy? Got it. Fantastic. Love it. All right. So another thing that can happen is the pupil can change shape. The pupil shape equals your spinal alignment and nerve feed in the body. So when we see flattenings, we have maps that tell us what part of the spine that correlates to. And this isn't just a sudden, I fell down the stairs yesterday, my spine is all whacked out, I'm going to go get it adjusted. When we see these flattenings, the spine has been misaligned for a long time. And it's going to take more than one chiro adjustment, one Dorn treatment, one osteopathic appointment to get this to round out and to correct the spinal alignment and the nerve feed. Again, this is a sign that can be changed if you're willing to do the work. If you are willing to, go to osteo or go for Dorn or go for physio and do the homework they assign, with time, you can correct the alignment and make it hold and thereby correct the nerve feed. So this is just absolutely so important, because if the nerve feed from the spinal cord can't work properly, whatever that nerve feed is supposed to be feeding isn't going to work properly either. We can see blood vessels change in the sclera. So again, we look at 1997 and we look at 2018, so nearly 20 years difference. And I want you to look at this blood vessel right here and this one right here. Now this photo has cut off a part of this one, but when we look at the more recent picture, what we see is that one, I call that the Harry Potter scar, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, right there. That's gotten thicker and longer. Okay, can you see that? It's gotten thicker and longer. Now, additionally, oops, I didn't want to do that. Oops, go back. There we go. This other blood vessel that is running here has actually faded a little bit. It's modified, right? It's not what it used to be. So when we see a blood vessel getting thicker and more prominent, we know there is an issue with congestion in that organ. When we see the blood vessels getting thinner and fading out, we know that we have cleared and are clearing some of the circulation or the congestion in that organ. So this is very dynamic, where we don't change things in the irides because the irides are genetic. We can change things, some things in the sclera, because the sclerae are very, very dynamic. And so again, it's when we're doing iridology, we might want to do iris photos, every year or two. But we want to do the sclera photos for sure every year, if not every 6 months, right? If our client is really on task, if they're really doing their homework well, then we will be able to see some of those blood vessel changes as the work is happening. Your sclerae are very dynamic. You know this, even if you've never done photos of them. If you've ever had a really good hard cry and you went into the bathroom to splash water on your face and you noticed how bloodshot your eyes were from that, those blood vessels can get irritated very quickly. You splash some cool water on your face, and take a few deep breaths, give yourself 5 minutes, the eyes calm down. They might still be puffy around, the lower eyelids and the upper eyelids, but the eyes themselves will calm down. We love to combine the sclerology with the iridology. When we understand the genetics and when we understand the person's diet and lifestyle and put that together with what we see in the sclera, it gives us a really nice picture of where we're at with this person, where this person's at with their health, of what would be some of the best things for them to do moving forward to gain progress with their health. Something that does not happen, and this is something that I had been taught would happen, and it was one of my frustration points. I was taught that when we saw a lacuna and it had these lines in it, that these were healing lines, that it meant that this person had effected healing. We now know that is not true. We know that the iris itself is made up of layers of these fibers, and they're not really fibers, they're actually capillaries coated with collagen. But there are layers of these fibers in the eye. We call them trabeculae. When we see an opening like this, like a lacuna, or just an area like this that is a little bit rarefied, what we are seeing is we're seeing what's down a layer. It's like a part of that top layer. It's definitely a part of that top layer is missing. Whatever's in here, that part of the surface of the eye is missing. And we're looking at the fiber structure that is down a layer or two. And so this is not a healing thing. This is simply the fibers beneath the surface. We used to talk about these being healing lines, and we didn't have before and after photos. It was just, you'd look at a person's eye with your magnifying glass or through your camera, and you'd go, oh, you've got healing lines in there. That's great. That's a good sign. We had nothing to reference before that. We didn't know if those had magically appeared, but now we know from longitudinal studies, they don't magically appear, right? They are a layer down in the eye. All right. I had also been taught way back when that as healing happened, lacunae would change and they would get smaller and they would disappear. Now what we know, and I know some of you have got this one figured out already, the lacunae don't change as a result of healing. They look like they've changed because we've changed tech and the pupil size is different. So when we are looking at this first image, these are all the same eye. When we look at the first image, the light was not very bright, so the pupils were quite large. And what that means is that the amount of tissue here, don't spill the water on the computer, has to compress. So instead of being wide like this, it compresses like this into a smaller area. I want you to think about a piece of fabric. If you have a piece of fabric laid flat on a table and you push it together and compress it, it goes wrinkly, right? That's exactly what happens to the surface of the eye. When the iris tissue gets compressed, those fibers have to change. They look like they're changing their shape, but they really aren't. It's just that the surface of the eye has to change to accommodate the compression. So that will take a lacuna like this. And then if we start to stretch the fiber out, that lacuna stretches out as well. So you'll see it's tall and thin here. Here it's a little bit shorter and a little bit wider. As we stretch that fiber out even further, that lacuna gets even shorter and longer from side to side, right? And so this is not, I was originally taught that going from here to here always meant healing had happened. What it means, first off, is tech has changed. Lighting has changed. Second off, when you understand what a large pupil means, if you've got the exact same camera setting and that pupil did get smaller, that teaches you a little bit more about the person's physiology and what's going on. But certainly these lacunae changing, quote unquote, changing doesn't indicate healing because the lacunae themselves have not changed. That's sometimes a difficult concept to explain and to understand. If that made sense to you, give me a 1 in the comments. If that made sense, give me a 1 in the comments. And Maria's saying, giving me a 1. Excellent. So is Peggy. This is great. This is really good. And Maria Lowen, brilliant. Excellent. I appreciate that. All right. So now that you've had a taste of iridology, I want to find out from you with this. I want to know, has any of this been new for you? If anything at all has been new for you today, give me the word new in the comments box. New, Maria? Oh, fabulous. Very cool. Anybody else? And Dawn? Yeah. Anybody else? Amazing. And Maria Lowen, this is so good. This is so good. So good. Lovely. Okay, so now that you've had a taste of that, I'm going to beg your permission to spend just a couple minutes talking about the course, right? You're seeing how different this is from some other forms of iridology you might have been exposed to, perhaps. Stephanie Morgan is a grad of my course, and she posted these in our Facebook group. If you're thinking about this, don't put it off. I regret not signing up as soon as I learned about Judith. Was waiting for life to settle. I was waiting for life to settle down. Hint, there is never a better time. Life is going to happen whether you're in class or not. And then she went on to say, I'm so thankful for Judith's approach. Every week I see clients leave the holistic office where I work in a dazed, overwhelmed stupor. Far too many of them do not return. I just have to praise my teacher for a minute. Those of you who know Judith from videos already recognize she's an amazing instructor. What you may not realize is that students and graduates, oh my goodness, why is this touching me now? Have access to Judith and training videos and alumni even after the class is finished. She is a rare find in the under promise and over deliver. I'm so thankful I was led to her website, and Peggy echoes that. She says she's so right. So when we look at the dynamic iridology assessment system for health professionals, it is the only fully mentored, live, online course, iridology course for nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths, holistic health professionals who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. So they can stop working unpaid overtime to create client programs, so they can stop overwhelming their clients with undoable programs that will, and so they can create programs that will actually increase client compliance, success, and long-term relations retention. I've got clients who've been with me for 4 decades now. I know, isn't that mind-boggling? Mind-boggling. I just absolutely love it. This course includes 45 hours of live instruction. We meet for class once a week for 2¼ hours, and we do that for 20 classes. We've got all of your classes are recorded, so you can come back and listen to them to review. Every topic is pre-recorded in a mini recording so that you can review just individual things. It's a course that is designed to really help you in your practice assess your clients more quickly, more accurately, develop better and faster rapport and eliminate the need for an intake form. You will always need a release form, but you know, I've never met a client who's complained about not having to fill out an intake form. They actually really appreciate that rather than me having them do useless paperwork. That is a very harsh judgment on intake forms, I realize. They appreciate that I want to find out who they are. I want to talk to them. I want to hear how they say things. I want to hear the words they choose. I want to watch their facial expression. I want to connect with them and then take their eye photos, and I integrate our conversation and their goals with what I see in the eyes to ask more questions to create the program. And I can do that in 60 to 75 minutes, right? And they love that. They love that. Again, the next course start date is October 12th, and there are still a few spots left. If you are a holistic health professional, you've got anatomy and physiology under your belt, you've done a college level A&P course already, and you want to learn iridology, we should talk. We really should. tinyurl.com/dynamic-iridology-insight with the missing T off the end of this. That's how you schedule an opportunity for us to have a private conversation about where you're at, where you want to go, how you want to integrate iridology into what you're doing, and is this even the right course for you? Right? I used to accept everybody into the course. If you had money, you could come in. And what I learned was this, and I learned it the hard way. People who don't have anatomy and physiology get lost because I teach deep. I'm not teaching this marking means one problem. One marking equals one problem. I'm teaching when we see a marking like this sitting here and your client has these symptoms, what questions do you need to ask? And what are the possible interpretations here? Because there's always more than one. So I'm teaching deep. And if you don't have A&P, you're going to get lost. You're going to drop out. And if you don't have A&P, I will not let you register until you can show me you've completed A&P somewhere, right? I know that sounds harsh, but when you've got the A&P, we go so much deeper and it becomes fun. Peggy says, such a great support system. Julie, who is a current student, says, thank you, right? Thank you. And Julie could attest to how much fun we have in class because everybody knows how the body functions. And it's just so great. This is Sharon Bimrose. She's a naturopath in Australia. She said, I'd already taken iridology as a part of my studies as a naturopath. However, Judith's course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, we've changed the title since she wrote this, surpassed my previous training in structure, content delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. Iridology, without a doubt, has been a huge game changer to my practice. So that's a real kudos. She already had iridology under her belt, but she didn't feel confident in it. They also didn't teach her how to use her camera, which my course includes extra mentoring. And if you've got a camera and you don't buy one right off the bat, but when you're ready to buy a camera, if you need help with it, you bring that to the mentoring sessions, and I coach you. How do you use your camera and get the best images with it? So again, the next course starts on October 12th. Love to speak with you. If you are really at that point where you're thinking, I think I need to do this. I think I'm ready to have a live teacher. I'm ready to be mentored. I'm ready to have an iridology community that will support me in this. I'm ready to have long-term support even after the course is finished. Then we need to talk. tinyurl.com/dynamic-iridology-insight. And that is it. Chevy on Facebook is saying, I'm going to be working with you soon. Chevy, I can hardly wait. That will be wonderful. Julie says, I love your teaching techniques. It's obvious how much you care. Oh my goodness, again, there's those heartstrings today. How much you care about iridology and passing on your wealth of information to your students. Julie, thank you for saying that. There you go. I didn't make it up. Julie really said it. There you go. All right. And so thank you. Thank you for being with me today. Does anyone have any other questions I can answer for you about what we talked about today or about the course? Anything at all? Are we good? Okay. Maria says, thank you for your time. Have a blessed day. Peggy says, love you, Judith. You're amazing. I love you too, Peg. And Dawn says, how many weeks? Oh, brilliant. Dawn, the course is 20 weeks long. We will be taking 2 weeks off in December for the Christmas break. Yeah, we'll see you later, Julie. See you in class today. Yeah, so it's 20 weeks long, 2.25 hours per class, and we meet once each week. Pravina says, thank you so much, Judith. I missed the starting of today's session. Pravina, not to worry, you will be getting the recording because you attended the webinar, right? So you will get the recording, the replay. Is there a board you sit for after? Dawn, that is a great question. Absolutely. My course prepares you for certification. And then once you finish the course and the mentored component, then you are ready to sit for the certification exam. And I walk you through that process of how you accomplish that as well. The certification is through the International Iridology Practitioners Association. And yeah, you have a good day too, Peg. Pravina says, I am a physio with knowledge of anatomy and physiology. Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. Dawn says, do we bring clinical clients to assess? We do that in our mentoring sessions. So we stick to curriculum during our class sessions, but twice each month we have scheduled group mentor sessions. If you've got a case you want to bring, you bring it to the mentoring session and we talk about it with you. We'll talk you through it. And Pravina says, please let me know the complete details. Thank you. Pravina, let's have you book a call. I would love to speak with you. So head on over to tinyurl.com/dynamic-iridology-insight. Again, there's a T on the end of this that got cut off. And let's talk because, you know, I want to have the opportunity to answer all of your questions as you have them. All right. Dawn says, perfect. Definitely something I would love to do. Thank you. Pravina will text you on Messenger. Fantastic, Pravina. Love that. I look forward to hearing from you. All righty. Well, I must run. I do have a class starting in 12 minutes that I've got to get set up for. So do have a remarkably wonderful day. And I look forward to speaking with you really soon. Take care and bye for now.